Welcome to Coral Clash. Prepare to dive into this deep-sea strategy game where you compete for control of the reef. To win a game, you must achieve one of two primary goals. The first way to win Coral Clash is to checkmate your opponent's whale. Like in chess, checkmate occurs when you threaten the opponent's whale with capture, and it has no legal move to escape. If your whale is in check, you must make a move to get it out of danger immediately. The second way to win Coral Clash is to control the most area via coral after certain conditions are met. The area under your control is measured by counting the amount of coral of your color that has not been occupied by one of your opponent's pieces. The area of control condition is triggered when one of the following scenarios occurs. A player has placed all of their coral. A player only has their whale remaining. A crab or an octopus manages to cross the entire board and reach the opponent's starting row. Once triggered, the player controlling the most coral wins. Finally, the game can end in a draw. This happens either through stalemate, where a player has no legal moves, but their whale isn't in check, or threefold repetition, where the exact same board position repeats 3 times with the same player. Of course, a player can always choose to resign and concede the game. Now that we know how to win, let's discuss the board setup. The game is played on an 8x8 board. Each player takes their 17 coral and 17 unique pieces, 1 whale, 2 dolphins, 4 turtles, 2 pufferfish, 4 crabs, and 4 octopus. Place your pieces as shown on the back of the box. You'll notice that every piece other than the whale comes in 2 varieties. Hunters are pieces without the 4 small coral icons. They specialize in removing enemy coral. Gatherers have the 4 small coral icons. They specialize in placing your coral. We will discuss hunters and gatherers later during piece movement, but for now, notice how they are placed on the board. The player that goes first starts with 2 pieces of coral on the board, and the player going second starts with 3 pieces of coral on the board in order to balance the starting player advantage. Now let's move on to a typical turn. On your turn, you must follow these 3 steps. 1. Move 1 piece. 2. Resolve any capture or special hunter-gatherer effects caused by that move. 3. Check if any objective is met, like a checkmate or area control trigger. After completing these steps, it is your opponent's turn. Now let's discuss how pieces move. Pieces cannot move through other pieces. Crabs can move 1 square horizontally or vertically. Octopus can move 1 square diagonally. Pufferfish can move any number of squares diagonally. Turtles can move any number of squares horizontally or vertically. Dolphins can move any number of squares vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. The whale is more complex. As a reminder, a whale may never end its movement in check, where it could be captured. However, the whale can move through a threatened square. As the whale occupies 2 squares, it is easier to think about how the movement for a whale works by looking at half of the whale. 1. Move half of the piece any number of squares in a straight line, vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. 2. Rotate half of the piece 1 square, horizontally or vertically. let's move on to how you can capture another piece. You capture an opponent's piece by simply moving your piece to the square the opponent's piece occupies, removing their piece from the board. Since the whale occupies 2 squares, it has the potential to capture 2 pieces in a single move. Now let's return to the difference between hunters and gatherers. As a reminder, hunters are pieces that do not have the 4 small coral icons. If you move a hunter piece onto a square containing coral, your movement stops immediately. Once stopped, you can use the hunter effect to remove that coral from the board, returning it to the supply, either your supply or your opponent's, depending on the color of the coral. Whales, which are considered hunters, have special cases to consider. If half of your whale is already resting on a coral, its movement is not stopped if the other half moves onto the same piece of coral. Whales can remove 2 coral in the same move, or just 1 if desired. As a reminder, gatherers have the 4 small coral icons. When you move a gatherer piece onto an empty square, so one without coral, you can use the gatherer effect to place one of your coral from your supply onto that square. And that is everything you need to know to get started in Coral Clash.